Hey mama, are you feeling overwhelmed? Like no matter how hard you try, you're still not the mom you know you were meant to be? I get it, and I'm here to tell you you were designed for more, and together we can get you there. Welcome to the Nature to Nurture podcast. I'm Tiffany, an early childhood specialist, advocate, and mom on this journey with you. I've spent years supporting families and working with children in those critical first 5 years of life, where every moment counts. But here's the thing. The same caregiving practices that help 0 to 5-year-olds thrive are the very same practices that help us, as adults, live purposeful, connected, and thriving lives. It all begins with intention, mindfulness, and showing up for ourselves and our kids. In this podcast, I'll help you discover simple tips and practices for raising your little ones with intention and care, while also guiding you to become the caregiver that you've always wanted to be, the one that you dream of. Each week, I'll share stories from my own life, some practical strategies, and research-backed insights to help you slow down, reconnect, and find joy in the everyday moments. Whether it's creating a bit of time for unstructured play, setting up your nurturing routines, or taking care of yourself as you care for your kids. This is the place for you. If you're ready to embrace the kind of motherhood that feels aligned with who you truly are, be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and join our supportive community. We are here to lift each other up every step of the way. All right, Mama, let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to Nature to Nurture podcast. We are here today to explore the beauty of purposeful parenting, nature-based learning, and creating a life that is rooted in connection and intention. In today's episode, I am excited to dive into the power of daily rhythms and how they can inspire connection and growth for you and your family. I'm going to share with you guys some research on the importance of rhythms, share a little bit of my own personal experience with having rhythms and not having them, and give you a couple of actionable steps to really help you create those meaningful rhythms in your own life. By the end of today, you'll feel equipped and inspired to implement small, yet super powerful changes that are going to help you to align with the natural flow of your family's needs. Before we begin, I want you to just take a moment to pause. Wiggle your toes. Feel the ground beneath your feet. If you're sitting, feel the seat that's supporting you. And let your tension melt away, like snow under the sun. Take a deep breath, in and out. Let your heart open up to the possibility of creating a life of intention, of connection, of peace. Rhythms, just like the ebb and flow of nature, help to bring balance to our lives. Let's honor that today as we're tapping into the natural wisdom that already lies within you. Go ahead and grab yourself your drink, take a sip, and we are going to dive in. I want to start by sharing with you my own personal experience of what mornings used to look like for us. They were chaos. They were stressful. And like so many families, I was juggling getting myself ready for work and getting my kids rushed out the door in time for school. You see, we had an early start. I was a preschool teacher, director, so I had an even earlier start. And to top that all off, we live 30 minutes out of town. Not to mention the chickens that we've got to make sure are taken care of before we even jump in the car, right? I would wake up in the morning at the same time as my kids. I would rush them. There were tantrums. We forgot so many items, and we left late almost every single day, and the car ride started off with all of us being frustrated, stressed out, upset, and just in this general feeling of unease. I longed so much for mornings that would feel calm and connected, and I just wasn't sure how to achieve them. One of the great pushes that we had that pushed us to go into homeschooling was this exact feeling, this rushed all the time feeling. We were blessed and able to take a mini vacation, not a mini vacation, it was long, to my husband's hometown in Mexico, and there is no time there, right? Time is what you make it. And we were on vacation and we weren't rushing. In fact, there was never traffic there because it's a tiny ranch in the middle of the mountains. And coming back and seeing all of the ants lined up every single morning in our morning traffic rush, I was like, why are we doing this? This isn't supporting the life that we want. This isn't supporting the way that we feel. We're just moving along with everybody because we think it's what is good, what we're supposed to do, what's normal. And so that little piece of that morning routine really helped us to push and to jump into homeschooling. And let me tell you, homeschooling changed everything. Now I still start my day early. My body will not let me wake up late, so that's okay. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up and I have time to fill my bucket. I have time for me. I have at least an hour every morning that I get to fill my cup up. This special time, I did at first get tricked into just working and using it as work time, right? And I realized, nope, that is not filling me up. That's just taking from a cup that's already empty. So I had to really be intentional and create some routines that are going to fill me up so that I am prepared for what comes through the day. So now I start my day with reading, with time for reflection, with time to create and get some art out. Maybe it's watercolor painting, maybe it's creative writing, maybe it's a little fun on the Cricut machine. There's many options that I could choose from. Sometimes it's even jumping on here and recording an episode for you all and letting that creativity shine out. Either way, I let myself fill up my cup before anybody else is awake. I have found that having this time really helps me to set up myself so that I am intentional and attuned to what I need and what my family needs. Then we get to the kids, right? So when the kids wake up, they actually get to wake up calmly. I have figured out the time when that is. It's generally around 8:30 when they like to wake up. And I'm ready to greet them with peace and calm because I'm not rushing them through the day. And if they have to wake up a little bit earlier, I've already been up, I'm calm. Again, I can still do this. The time doesn't matter as much, although I do prefer to wake them up at their natural rhythm. So I go in, I wake them up gently, without a rush, just there being mama. That right there is so important. Now, when we wake up, we have built some intentional rhythms into our mornings, and here's your cue, right? I hope you're taking notes. These rhythms don't have to be super long. They don't have to be super complex. These are rhythms that are going to support you and your family. So like I said, I wanted our mornings to start off right. I want them to feel that peace, that fullness, just like I'm feeling in the morning after I've had my time. And so we start our mornings with a cozy coffee and tea corner. It was so fun creating this as we were moving into the colder weather. We picked up a tray. We have a coffee pot that creates hot water as well. We brought in a couple of our favorite teas, hot chocolate, apple cider. We added a fun little snowman bin that holds our hot chocolates, put in some sparkly lights. We had some fun spoons in there to stir our drinks up. And it's just a way to make that rhythm of having a hot drink together intentional, extra special. It wasn't much. The snowman tin was $1 at the thrift store, right? not a lot to really create a little rhythm, a little expected routine in their day. This rhythm truly has transformed our days from being rushed to having intentional harmony. So while we're drinking our drinks in the morning, we're able to really set up our rhythm for the day. Being that they're homeschooled, they do have a homeschool rhythm. I've printed it out. They know what to expect Monday through Friday in order to complete their homeschool activities. I actually laminated it so I can use it over and over again. And on this sheet, as we're having our morning breakfast, our morning drink, we can write down what other additions we want to add to our daily rhythm. So maybe it's, this morning Mom has a meeting, so we're going to be going into town for a coffee shop meeting. We'll write that in there. Maybe it's that we want to make a stop over at our local recreation center and do some swimming, or go to the library, or go out on an adventure, right? These are things that we can write into our daily rhythm. We know what our rhythm is going to look like. Sometimes you have musicians that play without music, but generally they have that music either memorized or right there in front of them so they know what's coming next. It helps us to perform and to be at our highest potential, right? This rhythm has helped us so much, and this shift has really allowed me to focus my energy, my practices into creating a space where my family is feeling grounded and supported, and not into a space where they're feeling on edge because I'm trying to squeeze it all into a day without a plan. You see, rhythms are more than just routines. They are the heartbeat of your family's day. When you are aligning with your natural rhythms, you are creating the space for connection, for growth, for healing. As you listen today, I want you to reflect on where your rhythms are feeling forced and where they feel natural. I really want you to lean into what is feeling good and to let go of what is not serving you anymore. Now, I want you to know that what I'm talking about is not just something that I thought of in my head. This is something that I learned through my study of forest school teaching practices and early childhood development. And it's something that you can see in many different books, studies, professional development courses, all of that. It says that predictable routines and rhythms are essential for regulating our nervous system. Now, when we speak to young kiddos, even, think about a baby. You get into the rhythm of eat, change the diaper, sleep. Change the diaper, eat. Change the diaper, sleep. Right? Those rhythms help to set up your child so that they are calm and at peace. And in fact, if you're like me and get to spend any time in NICU, they actually set up your rhythm and routine for you to the minute. And believing that your child will stay on that routine because it keeps them regulated, right? Now, it's not just children that are going to thrive on these rhythms and routines. Adults also thrive on having this structure. It provides us a sense of safety, and it helps to reduce our anxiety. In my preschool program, one of the key items that we had was our daily plan, and it was something that was displayed for the children to follow. It was something that we followed. It created that regular expectation of what to do and when to do it. And as we transitioned into more and more of a forest-based approach, we kept those rhythms and routines. Oftentimes, adding in a time for some hot tea in the morning was a key part of that routine, right? Watching the different energy of your rhythms. You don't want to mix a super high energy rhythm with a low energy rhythm, because then you're jumping from one energy to the other. So really following that wave, that up and down of your energy, making sure that your rhythms are supporting that, And like, for instance, you're outside playing, that's high energy. Coming in from outdoor play to directly taking a nap, from high energy to low energy, that doesn't make sense. So how can you sprinkle in some mid energy levels that can bring you down to that lower rest energy, right? Rhythms are things that mirror what we already find in nature. They help remind us of the predictable forces that are already around us. And as someone who deeply values harmony and connection, I've been able to see how taking those rhythms that I see in nature and implementing them into my home, even rhythms of the seasons, has really helped to transform not just my family's day, but our overall sense of well-being, our overall peace internally, which is something that takes time, something that takes consistency, but a gift that is immeasurable. Now I want to give you some actionable steps for you to take so that you can actually create these rhythms in your daily life for yourself and for your children. So remember, I told you, I start my daily rhythm with just a rhythm for me. When you wake up, do you have a rhythm that starts your day? Maybe you go and start the coffee, right? So here we go. Number 1, start small. I want you to begin with a single micro rhythm, such as waking up and having a morning hug, or taking a minute each day to reflect on what your favorite part of the day was. And remember that consistency is key. So like I said, this could be something as simple as when you go and you start your morning coffee, you open up the window, you look outside, and you take 5 deep breaths. Check. There's a simple rhythm that can help you to set up your day. Number 2, I want you to involve your family. So really collaborate and work with your children, your partner, to identify what are some rhythms that feel natural and supportive for everyone in the household. This might be a great spot for you to also say, what are some times during our day that do not feel good? Maybe that's where you want to focus on, is creating a better natural rhythm during that time instead of resorting to this chaos rhythm like I was doing in the morning rush, right? So involve your family, talk to them about it. They're going to tell you what part of the day they don't like every day. I know my kids were quick to tell me they hate how I was in the morning, right? And I was like, okay, let's change that. All right, number 3, I mentioned this as I was talking about my time in preschool, where we had a visual representation of the rhythms. I also spoke to this on how my kids still have a daily rhythm sheet, and we write in there where we're adding additional rhythms, right? So create some visual aids. This can even be for you individually. In my planner, in my daily planner, and in my electronic planner, I have specific rhythms marked out in there. So such as when I'm transitioning to the next activity, one of my rhythms that I have is to tidy up the space and make sure that I'm leaving the space better than I found it. So I've got 3 stars that say, okay, make sure you do that rhythm, that you're tidying up before you transition. I also have my cleaning rhythms in there, which is really helpful. I have a time that I do my cleaning rhythm, and it's expected. Like I had to write it out, I had to build it out, I had to practice it to make it consistent, and now I just do it. And it really does help to feed and to fuel my entire day. Now remember, things happen. So my 4th step for you is to be flexible. It is okay if you miss a rhythm or you need to skip a rhythm. That's all right. Rhythms are not a rigid rule book that you have to follow. Instead, it's a guide that really helps you to get where you're going. So I like to think of it as a map, right? Old school map. You have your map printed out. It tells you how to get from point A to point B, but oh no, there's construction or a roadblock. Yes, you have to divert and get back on track, But that doesn't mean that the whole thing is messed up if you have a roadblock. So be flexible and remember that you can return to your rhythm, to recalibrate, to get back into balance, to get back on track and at peace. And my last tip is to really anchor your day with a couple of key routines. It could be establishing a special activity like sharing a meal, going on a family walk, taking some time to read together as a family. But think of an activity, a routine, a rhythm each day that can really help you all come back into balance. And again, it's expected. You're creating that consistency. I want to provide you with an example that's really easy to implement. This is one that I was able to implement myself to really start creating those changes. And this is for those of you that have kiddos in school. If you don't have kiddos that are in the public or private school program, you can still do this. You can still find a spot to put this in. But we had this rhythm that I would pick up the kids from school. They would immediately melt down. I was already frazzled because I had been with kiddos teaching all day. And so I would melt down. We would call Dad. Dad would be frustrated because he was already expecting us to call to save the day. And it just would create a yucky afternoon every afternoon. And I was tired of it. And so we really implemented a special rhythm and routine. I started parking away from the pickup zone. That would give us time to walk together, to move, to breathe before we even got in the car, right? And it helped me to jump out of my expected rhythm and into something new. So I would park a couple of minutes away, maybe 2-3 minutes from pickup. I would walk over there. Upon pickup, cue number 1, a hug for each of them. We would hold hands and walk to the car. Cue number 2. When we get in the car, I would have a water bottle and a snack for them. Cue number 3. Having those 3 expected items helped them to shift out of their school mode, shift into family mode, and for me to remember to be intentional. They're tired, they're exhausted. Let me create a space, an expected safe space for them, right? I want you to think of these rhythms as energetic cues, really. When you are setting these intentional rhythms, you're not just organizing your day. You are creating an energy feeling, a frequency that's going to resonate with your deepest desires for peace and connection. And your kids might not be able to speak to it, but you are creating a space that helps them feel safe and loved, right? Remember, the energy that you are bringing to these moments is as important as the actual rhythm itself. So sprinkle in joy, like a little song or silly voice at bedtime, and just watch how it's going to transform the energy in the space. Now, I want to wrap up today by providing you with a couple of reflection questions before we close out. So make sure that you have your pen and pencil, paper. Come back if you need to. Pause this episode. Question number 1. What is just one, small rhythm that you can add to your day that's going to help support connection and growth? Maybe this is a rhythm just for you so that you can be intentional in the morning as you step in to the day, right? Number 2, how can you involve your family in creating or enhancing some of these daily rhythms? Number 3, what is one thing that you are currently doing that could be turned into an intentional rhythm? Something that you just do without even thinking about it. How could you actually make that something intentional, something you are thinking about as you're going through it? Now, I want you to remember that life's most meaningful connections oftentimes are found in the simplest rhythms, right? I think there's a quote that says, it's not about the big things you do, it's about the little everyday things that you do that really matter. So, as the sun rises and sets each day, there's another little rhythm that reminds us of the beauty, of the necessity of cycles in nature. I want you to let this inspire you to create patterns in your life that are going to foster peace and joy. Remember, allow your rhythms to be a gentle guide, right? They're bringing you back to center when your life feels overwhelming. They're bringing your kids back to center when their life feels overwhelming, reminding what is safe, what is expected. You have the power to create this type of energy for yourself and for your family. And don't forget, some days the rhythm is just breathing deeply and trying again tomorrow. And that's okay. I would love to hear from you about what are some of your family's favorite daily rhythms or your own personal favorite daily rhythms. You can head on over to speakpipe.com/nature to nurture, and you can share your story with me with an audio recording. I would love to hear from you. And if you haven't yet, please make sure that you share this episode, and review the podcast to really help this community grow. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. As you step into your rhythms, I hope that you find the balance, connection, and growth that your family deserves. And remember, just as nature has its cycles, so do we. Let's embrace them. Let's go together, walk forward with intention and grace, and maybe tonight, look up at the stars or at the full moon that we just had, and let their quiet rhythm remind you that you are part of something beautiful.